Hi, my name is Ms. Diamond Wickfall,
And I'm Buster Pants.
and you're listening to
The
Horror
Horror
Squad
Squad
Podcast.
Podcast.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Horror Squad Podcast. This is episode number 327, where tonight we are going to be talking about 2024's Late Night with the Devil, currently streaming over on Shudder. I'm here, of course, as always, with Steve, everyone's favorite Canadian, and Todd, everyone's favorite Kentuckian. Gentlemen, how you doing tonight?
Well, everyone's favorite Salem night.
Salemite,
Joseph.
yes.
Salemite, there you go. Doing all right. How about yourself?
Excellent. I had a good weekend. Non-horror wise, I went and saw a Beatles cover band. It was a good time. In
The Slugs.
in honor of 420, even though I can't smoke weed, but because of work. But I still enjoyed myself. Got a little trippy, little acidy visuals and stuff like that for that. But horror wise, I attended a screening of Dawn of the Dead yesterday in honor of, is this 45 years? It was some special anniversary for it, I think, for the screening. Maybe not. I'm not really sure.
45.
45 years, yes. So they brought it back to theaters for limited engagement, certain theaters. So yeah, I went and checked it out. Got to see it on the big screen for the very first time. And yeah, it was great. It was a good time. It was a delight to see it on the big screen, and just being able to know that we're going to be there at the mall coming up in just under like a month and a half is very exciting. So yeah, very cool.
That's awesome. On my end, I put my house up for sale today, so I am just like all over the place. It's a pain in the ass because when you have showings, you have to like clear your house. It has to be like basically the cleanest it's ever been all the time. Like you feel like awkward cooking, you feel awkward like doing anything. But hopefully it'll sell quickly, and I will be in my new digs sometime earlier this summer. So it'll make things a lot easier on my end. And speaking of which, we talked about this on a Discord, but we didn't talk about it on the air. So I'm going to announce it now. If people don't know, we have a YouTube channel, the Horror Squad Podcast, and I've been posting all of the episodes, kind of like a video version, but not quite. I just put kind of the poster of what we're talking about and stuff like that, just as a visual aid. And I post them about a week after a regular episode. Well, we decided that going forward, we're going to actually just have us. So we do record on video, we just never release it. So it'll be kind of a mostly uncut, uncensored view at our podcasts. So I won't edit those unless we talk about something like under embargo or something, then I'll take that out. But mostly it'll just be us and with our fuck ups and how really bad we are at trivia. Like we answer, it takes us way longer to answer than it appears on the recording and all that good stuff. So if you want to watch that, as soon as I'm done with my move shit, we're gonna start that. Just now, it's kind of a bad time because I'm recording from all over the place. You can maybe even hear an echo behind me. It's because my room is like practically empty. So that's coming up soon, and people should check it out. It'll be just a different way to experience our podcast. So I'm looking forward to doing that.
Excellent. All right. Well, like Todd said, we got to start putting our makeup on weekly, I guess, since,
And pants. So
Yes, yeah, and yes, exactly. Well, I never get up, so I don't think you'll see me pantless.
Are you wearing pants, Steve?
I am my boxers a
No,
lot of
no,
the time.
first-
But
No. Will
First
you
in-
ever record a episode from the spa, Steve?
Oh fuck yeah! I'll just
Excellent.
put the camera up and
nice. Fun fact, I think I talked about this on episode 300, but the first interview I ever did with Mark Corbin, I did in my underwear. It was not on video, but yeah, I did my underwear completely nude otherwise. But yeah,
Nice.
he was on video, and I was so scared that my video was gonna come up, and like I ran away from the screen for a second to make sure. But yeah, you can hear that whole story if you want to go back, episode 300. Before we get into what watch, once again, I just mentioned Dawn of the Dead. Do not forget June 7th through the 9th, Monroeville Mall in Monroeville, Pennsylvania. Living Dead Weekend, the official Horror Squad podcast meetup. We are doing the 1 p.m. mall tour on Saturday. They're going to take you behind the scenes to filming locations you wouldn't be able to see otherwise. So that's going to be really cool. They're going to take you, I think, outside as well and stuff like that. Basically, anywhere Romero shot inside that mall, you are going to be able to see on that 1 p.m. mall tour on Saturday. And then Friday, we're just going to be attending the con. I think we're planning a dinner after the fact with all the listeners and stuff like that. So please come and join us for Living Dead weekend, June 7th through the 9th. And then in October, do not forget our Hocus Pocus event in Salem, Massachusetts. The cast of Hocus Pocus, a full weekend of events, October 11th through the 13th. Tickets for that whole weekend should be going on sale very soon. Make sure you join our Discord. We will give you first dibs on all of that before anything goes out exclusively to the public.
And before we move on, I just want to acknowledge this. I know it kind of puts a bit of a damper on the conversation we had, but it's been a year since we lost our boy Chuck. You still hear his voice every 2 weeks when we do the news segment. That is something he had recorded just before he passed away. I just want to say, I love you. I miss you. And to his family, I know some of them listen. You know, we're always there for you if you ever need, especially Teddy, his son. I hear he's growing up to be just like his dad. So his uncle, sent us a message on Discord to tell us that. So, our thoughts were with all of you. And Chuck, we absolutely miss you, buddy.
Absolutely.
Well said.
Yeah, absolutely. So before we get into what watched, let's just give a very brief moment of silence for Chuck. All right, gentlemen, let's get into it then. What you've been watching this week? I know Steve and I got some exclusive Salem Horror Fest stuff coming up, but Totter, why don't you lead us off?
Oh, okay. Well, I think we talked about it last week with the Festival of the Living Dead, the Soska sisters. Forgive me. Yeah, so I watched it today. It's a Tubi original or Tubi exclusive, whatever you want to call it. Man, okay, I'm just too old, honestly, for this stuff. Like there's a scene where a gentleman is being eaten alive, but he's like TikTok live streaming it and make sure the camera's in view while he's being pulled apart. People are doing selfies constantly. The plot is all over the place. Like there's a zombie invasion going on, but there's also a concert. So which one is it? Because we were just in this location where there's dead bodies, but now there's not, and there's a concert going on. Doesn't make any sense. All the characters are just like, yeah, let's look at our image, let's have selfie sticks, let's have all this shit, and it's just not my style, man. It's a 1.5 out of 5. As far as the connection to Night of the Living Dead, she is Ben's granddaughter, and she has like his rifle from the first movie, which I don't know how that's possible, but it is. And other than that, it's just zombies, and it's in Pennsylvania allegedly. I think you see like a license plate, and that's it. But yeah, this movie is terrible. It's just not good. So Festival of Living Dead, 1.5. I look forward to you guys seeing it too, especially Steve, since you got the Night of the Living Dead connection there. But yeah, it's awful.
Bummer. Although not shocking. All right, Steve, you got anything non-Salem Horror Fest wise this week?
I do, because one of them we're going to
Okay.
share, so I'll talk about something else first. So the first one I actually want to talk about is a TV show, and that is Fallout over on Amazon Prime. So Fallout is based off a series of games made by Bethesda, which is owned by Microsoft and Xbox. And basically it's a story of, it's like a futuristic 50s, and bombs start going off, which decimates the world. And there's groups of people who live in these vaults that basically want to repopulate the earth in a certain amount of time. Meanwhile, on the surface, some people did survive the blast, but there was radiation and they're all fucked up and there's very few resources and stuff like that. So the story follows 3 different people. It follows someone who is in a vault who, for one reason or another, has to leave the vault to find her father. You have someone who's a ghoul. He's like completely messed up. He's missing a nose, played by Walter Goggin, who has been in the kind of upper world after the Fallout since the beginning. It explains why he's been alive for over 200 years in the show. And then there's someone else who's part of something called the Brotherhood of Steel, which is kind of like the military in this post-apocalyptic world. And they have their own things that they're trying to do within the world as well. So I love the game. It's one of my favorites ever. I mean, I put Fallout 3 as one of my top 10 games of all time. Fallout 4 and 76 as well are just absolutely up there. And they fucking nailed this world. It's a very unique world because it's that futuristic 50s, but also post-apocalyptic. they just do such a great job of showing basically the game, but make it also a unique story to this. So it's not like they're remaking a specific game, they're just using that world and it's canon to that world and just kind of showing different things. It's 8 episodes. It goes by super fast, especially if you're a fan of Fallout. If you're not, it might take you a couple episodes to get into it, but it's fantastic overall. I could not recommend this more. So that is Fallout. I would give it a 4.5 out of 5 if I were to rate it on Letterboxd. Great show on Amazon Prime. Highly recommend it.
I have a quick update on Chucky, the television series, based on last week's thing. I just wanted to update because last week I had said, I was considering jumping ship, that the newest episode of the second part of this new season intro was like one of the worst episodes of the whole season. Well, they came back strong, I gotta say, and I would say the following episode that just aired was one of the best of the season and maybe even the series. So kudos to them for coming back. And it's still not perfect or anything like that, but as far as Chucky the TV series goes, it was a really solid, good episode, and will keep me on the train for a little longer. All right, so let's get into our Salem Horror Fest coverage. Unless you got anything else, Totter.
I do. I have one more.
All right, go for it.
Yeah, I watched a new one off Tubi, a Tubi original called Low Lives, and essentially the build-up and the setup is this city family does this once a year tour where they go in an RV and they go explore, different parts of the countryside, whatever. They grill out, eat hamburgers, stuff like that. They run across some Southerners that need a ride into town. They're really kind of off-putting though. They're kind of creepy. They kind of make fun of him a little bit, calling the main guy glasses and stuff because he's, he thinks he's uppity and things like that. So the family and these Southern people linked up together and killing ensues, but it's not what you think it is. There's some twisties and turnies in here that I really did enjoy. Now, the pacing in this film needed some work, and the identity of it needed to be locked in. Are we going to be strictly slasher? Are we going to be strictly kind of coming of age kind of aspects, things like that? But overall, I thought it was a fun ride. Some really cool kills, some solid acting, especially for Tubi original, and I would recommend it. So that's Low Lives, and it's a 3.5 out of 5 over on Tubi.
All right. Now, let's get into our Salem Horror Fest coverage. Shout out to Salem Horror Fest. They are a horror-based film festival that I think they're in their 5th or 6th year now. They do it over 2 weekends. So this upcoming weekend, the day of this recording releases, April 26th through the 28th. And then the following weekend, which is May 3rd through the 5th. So you can go over both weekends. You can go to one weekend. There is a ton of stuff to do. I know Linnea Quigley is going to be here weekend 1. I'm not sure if she's going to be there weekend 2, but there's going to be, horror meetups with fans, obviously a ton of movie screenings to go to and stuff like that. So you can grab your tickets at salemhorror.com. Also, our friends from the Crypt are doing a very special they're calling it a Lord's Dinner, which they're doing over both weekends so you can attend, but they are going to be hosting a very special themed dinner where the Lords of Salem was filmed. One of the filming locations for the Lords of Salem. They are going to be showing the movie with Rob Zombie director commentary playing as well, and they will be doing a very sort of special, I think it's like a 5-course meal dinner for both of those. That is a separate ticketed event, so you can get all information once again, salemhorror.com. I will probably be attending a couple of the events. I know Linnea Quigley is doing a listening party at the record store for the Return of the Living Dead soundtrack and the horror workout soundtrack and stuff, so that's pretty fun, and it's free to attend that one. You don't even need a ticket to Salem Horror Fest for that. So once again, salemhorror.com, grab your tickets. Thank you to Salem Horror Fest for sending us some screeners, which Steve and I are now going to get into, and we plan on covering probably more screeners next week as well. Hopefully, I don't know if we're going to get a screener for this, and I'm probably going to attend this, but weekend too, for you George Romero fans, they're going to be premiering a documentary called George Romero's Resident Evil, where they go over the never made, essentially, George Romero Resident Evil movie that was supposed to happen that probably would have been pretty fucking awesome. So I'll give you guys an update on that once I end up and go to see it. Alrighty, so let's get into the screeners for Salem Horror Fest. So the first one I will be talking about is Sigil, which will be making its Salem Horror Fest debut weekend number 2, Saturday, May 4th at 1 p.m. So you can check out Sigil for those of you in the Salem, Massachusetts area on that day. This one is about this young couple who decides to do, they're like college students, and they decide to do a getaway for sort of the week at this sort of remote cabin, I would say. And they end up going out there. One of the girls is like sort of, I guess, like one of the girls is like sort of more, I guess, like normal. I don't want to say normal, but like basically she has like sort of her shit together, right? She has, like a good family life, kind of like a good head on her shoulders. And the other girl is like struggling with her family, like they're not as close. Like she just doesn't feel like she's like loved, and she's also dealing with some like mental health issues and stuff like that as well. So the two of them go away because the other girl sort of feels bad and wants her to have sort of this escape while they're there. Well, while they're there, they are out in the woods kind of talking about their relationship and their issues and stuff like that, when one of the girls sort of makes this wish on this tree that has a sigil on it, which is, these markings essentially. And she unknowingly conjures a witch when she makes this wish, which was basically to just be like loved, essentially. And from there, the witch starts appearing to her, sort of requesting small little items and stuff like that from her, but with sinister tones of wanting these certain things. And yeah, I'll leave it at that. This one it's a slow burn for sure. I think my biggest complaint is at an hour and 50 minutes. I think it is a bit too long, but I found it to be, for the most part, I think it's a slow start, but after that, I found it to be pretty engaging with, the couple and the witch, especially, I think is done pretty well here. They keep her mostly ambiguous, but there are moments where you do see her and stuff like that, and it's pretty cool. So I think it has a really solid third act, and overall, I would recommend it to certain people, and I think people who are patient and are looking for something that you can kind of like dissect a little bit too, because I think there's a lot of interesting stuff here regarding mental health and mental illness and stuff like that too. I think there's a lot of metaphors here and stuff used and whatnot, as well as, yeah, just as well as sort of like the feeling of just wanting to be accepted. So I think I think overall it's a really solid movie. And yeah, I mean, it's not anything groundbreaking or anything like that, but it's one I would still recommend. I give it a 3 out of 5. I overall I enjoyed it.
Cool. So the one I watched is a movie from 2022 called Sins of the Father, which you can see at Salem Horror Fest on Saturday, April 27th at 3 p.m. So this one is about a mother and her son. They go to clear a house that the father owned. So the woman's husband and the dad of the other guy. And there's some kind of like bad thing that happened between them. So she's not particularly fond about having to do this, but it's a necessary evil. She needs to get the stuff out of there and essentially clear it for sale so she can kind of move back to where she's from and be cleansed of that whole situation. So she invites her friends over to kind of help her out in this endeavor. Meanwhile, as they're going through the process, they start to notice that there are some people from that town who are kind of butting in weird ways, and they're like hiding in the bushes, and they're just being kind of disruptive to the whole thing. And as they pack up more things and encounter more of the people from the town, they realize that the father had some sinister past that is slowly kind of uncovered throughout the movie. I'm not going to say what that is, but yeah, that's basically the gist of the story. So this one starts off like it was okay. Kind of, it's got like low budget kind of feel to it, but also still done pretty well. I didn't love most of the characters. I like the mother and the son, but the friends that they bring in, I wasn't a big fan of, and I wasn't really sure where it was going. You know, it's kind of a big time slow burn, but it leads somewhere. And by the third act, I was fully engaged. I thought it was pretty awesome. It gets pretty macabre, like it starts showing why it's a horror movie, and yeah, I totally dug it. It went to places that I didn't expect, and tonally went to a place that we didn't see like anything of at the beginning. So it was very kind of jarring in a good way. I really dug this one, and I think people should check it out. That is Sins of the Father that at Salem Horror Fest, and I gave it 3.5 out of 5. This is a good one, so I hope people can check it out.
Very cool. I wish I didn't have time to watch all three, so that's definitely one I'm going to jump on for next week. All right, so let's get into our last screener we got for this week. Steve and I both watched this one, so we will discuss together. And it is Faceless After Dark. That will be making its Salem Horror Fest debut Saturday, April 27th at 9:45 p.m. This one stars Jenna Cannell, who a lot of you guys will know from the first Terrifier movie. She was sort of the main girl now, and I cannot remember her character name in that one. I think, no, I can't even, I'm not even going to venture a guess. But this one's interesting. She basically is sort of playing her, like, herself in some ways in this one, or like an alternate universe version of herself. She is a actress who starred in a clown movie. Not, of course, they're not calling it Terrifier or Art the Clown, but she's an actress that starred in this clown horror flick. She gained a little bit of fame from that, although, you know, it didn't really help her career much. You know, she's sort of still a struggling actress. She's attending these horror conventions that she, you know, is not particularly fond of or feels sort of weird about, dealing with, you know, sort of creepy fans and stuff like that and whatnot. And then suddenly one night, a crazed fan enters her house and they have a struggle essentially. And from there, I don't know how spoilery I want to get with this, but I'll just say she ends up on this like attack that happens. She ends up sort of getting a taste for blood herself, and I'll leave it at that. Overall, I think this was a pretty fun watch. Like I overall had a pretty good time watching this. Is it anything groundbreaking? Absolutely not. But I think it's a pretty decent sort of like revenge slasher movie. It's very, I would say, like American Psycho-esque in some ways, although it's not as smart as American Psycho. I would call it a very dumbed down version of that. I think Jenna Cannell does a really good job in this role. I think it was probably cathartic for her as well. I think it was sort of releasing sort of that maybe some, you know, demon she had from after that first Terrifier movie, and how sort of she felt being sort of stuck in that bubble and whatnot. But yeah, overall, I had fun with it. I think of the two I watched, this would be the one I would probably rewatch of the two. I think overall, like, the horror fans will probably dig this one the most out of the two I watched anyway. What do you think, Steve?
So this was an interesting one. On the one hand, I liked it because it goes into interesting places. It's a good performance by the lead. It's also shot in a way that's very trippy and surreal, which I really enjoyed. I was never really sure where it was going to go next or how it would end and everything like that. I had an idea, and I think I'm wrong. I'm not sure. Without, I don't want to discuss it because it'd be a spoiler, but there are things that could definitely just discuss about the end, whether what happened was true or not, basically. So yeah, so there was a lot that I liked about it, but at the same time, there's something deep down in me that felt weird about it, because I feel that the film vilifies horror fans at the beginning. So in the first like 10 minutes, when she's kind of going through her issues, she shows how much she hates conventions and basically having to stand behind a table and talk to horror fans, even though like the ones that we see, at least at the con, like seem genuinely happy to see her, and she's taking money for the autographs and the photo ops, but she like seems to hate them. And then she also seems to absolutely despise doing like a cameo type thing, you know, like on the phone. So it's like she hates horror fans, which is weird because it's a horror movie. So you're kind of saying, I hate you guys who you need to watch this movie. It's like a really weird energy there. But they kind of dropped that in the second half, where she vilifies a group that I think deserves to be vilified. I don't want to say, but it's people who I'm sure all of you who are on social media have encountered, you know, that should be vilified. So that's the only like kind of big issue I have with the film. But overall, I enjoyed it. I thought it was a solid film, very well acted, got some, you know, good kills, and yeah, it's one people should probably check out.
Excellent. I gave it a 3 out of 5. What'd you give it, Steve?
Same thing, 3 out of 5.
Same thing. 3 out of 5. Excellent. All right. So thank you once again. So I would say those are three solid movies. Three and a half. So yeah, definitely if you want to go check it out, I would personally go see. If I had to pick one, I would say Faceless After Dark would be the one I would go see, and I think Steve's picking the other one.
Yeah, Sins of the Father was
Sins of
my
the
favorite
Father.
of the two that I watched, but they're both worth checking out, I would say.
Yeah. Agreed. All three definitely worth checking out, I would say. So that's once again Salem Horror Fest over the next 2 weekends. So if you are anywhere in the Salem, Massachusetts area, once again, salemhorror.com. You can grab your tickets, and I think Steve and I will be talking about more movies for weekend 2 for next week's episode. So yeah, thank you. All right, gentlemen, are you ready then for our main event of the evening?
Yes, we are. Sorry,
Okay.
we should probably mention
Sure.
we're not doing trivia this week, and that's my fault. I'm really
Yes.
on a time crunch because of my showings at my house, so it'll come back hopefully next week. But we're going straight to the review, straight to Late Night with the Devil.
That's right. All right, gentlemen. So let's get into it. 2024's Late Night with the Devil, directed by Cameron Cairns and Colin Cairns, starring David Damascus.
Good luck with that last name, dude.
David Dast Malkian.
There you
We'll
go.
see,
That
we'll
sounds
see how
right.
that goes. It sounds good enough. Laura Gordon, Ian Bliss, and Faisal Bazi. Plot: a live television broadcast in 1977 goes horribly wrong, unleashing evil into the nation's living rooms. Todd,
Yes.
you're a night owl,
I'm a night owl.
right?
I am a original night owl. So
Okay.
we have Mr. Jack Delroy, played by Mr. David D. I won't try to pronounce that last name again. He is a late night talk show host, man. He's like a famous, like local radio guy, and then he gets his talk show late night called the Night Owls. His quest is to be number one, right, with all the big guys, which you'd have to remind me what their names are because I've never watched late night TV before.
Johnny Carson's the big one they mentioned in
Johnny
this
Carson. There you go. So he
Mhm.
wants to beat Carson, right? But he just never gets enough to get there. He gets close. But never can finish the game. He's married to his love of his life, Madeline. But unfortunately, after being married for a number of years and having his talk show that's successful, just not where he wants it, she develops cancer out of nowhere. And they say this too, like never having smoked a cigarette in her life, she developed aggressive lung cancer, and she ended up passing away. Jack, the host, Jack Delroy, he goes missing for about a month, going on a little hiatus, whatever, and he comes back to his his TV show. And he's back in action, but he's still chasing that number one slot, man. His the episode where he had his wife, who was almost there, death's door, dying of cancer, where he had his wife on for an interview, was his like top rated spot, but just one below fucking Johnny. He's pissed. He wants it bad. So we're caught up a little bit, and it's Halloween night, and he decides to have a little spooky show, right? He has a self-proclaimed medium on. He has this guy that seems to be like a regular. He's like a magician / skeptic, and he calls out everything he sees. He's on there. That's Carmichael. We have the great Cristal, whatever, who's like the medium. And then we have a Dr. June, who is bringing on this little girl. I think, what are we thinking, 13, 14, something like that. Lily, who's allegedly possessed by a demon because she was in like this ultra religious / cultish house that like everyone there died except her, and then the doctor took Lily under her wing and it's like kind of like trying to help her out with her condition and everything. And then of course Jack, seeing the fucking potential of all these viewerships, right? He's like, we need to summon this demon on air. Let's do it. Is Jack honest? I don't know. We'll talk about it. Is there some tomfoolery happening between Jack? We'll see. Is there some weird shit with is the medium legit? I don't know. We'll talk about that too. Overall, I really dug it, man. This was movie number 3 in me and my friend TJ and Brent's movie night this weekend, and we had a great time discussing it afterwards. We were like sitting around theorizing things like that. Overall, I really liked it, and it was like a breath of fresh air to me, but I do have some issues with it, and I think there are at least 3, in my opinion, plausible theories that can each work in this film, depending on how you want to look at it. So can't wait to hear what you guys think. Overall, I liked it.
Yes, can't wait. Yeah, I'm looking forward to discussing this one. I agree. I think there's a few theories you could really get into, and we're going to get deep into it, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, I talked about this, I think, briefly a few weeks ago. I went and saw it in theaters. I did rewatch it just yesterday, and I gotta say, I actually think this movie is better watched at home than in theaters, because I think you really get the authentic experience of watching it on a TV rather than a movie theater, just because, it feels like you're, the way they frame this movie, it's supposed to be like you're watching sort of the broadcast that night, which I think translates better on TV. I would love to like watch it on like an old school, like tube TV or something like that. I think that would add to the effect even better. Or like if I know someone one day is going to put this on VHS, which I think would be like an awesome way to watch it too, watch it all grainy and stuff. Yeah, man, I really love this movie. Even on a second watch, I think I liked it even more. I think it held up really well for me. It like, for those of you, I don't think a lot of people have been like this sort of style movie. Obviously I saw it with like WNUF Halloween Special was one of the first ones I saw, where it's like you're watching the broadcast from that night. I really love that they went with that. I really dug the intro. Like, it was an info dump, but it was a good way to dump that info, sort of watching a like documentary style thing about Jack. I thought that was a great way to sort of put us into the movie with some bits of information without compromising, the what they were going with. The black and white scenes in the middle, were cool, although I feel like that was the one time in a quote unquote like found footage movie where perhaps they sort of cheated slightly, I would say. But overall, I mean, I really enjoyed it. I loved all the characters. I really don't think there's ever like sort of a dull moment. I was always super intrigued with what was going to happen next. They did a great job with just keeping it, authentic to that sort of 70s style and look. And yeah, like Todd said, this is one that after the credits roll really left me thinking, and for a couple days thinking sort of what happened there. So yeah, really dug this one.
Yeah, kind of the same thing for me. So I was a big time late night guy growing up, from the mid 90s to the late 2000, like 2000, 2009 in time. I would watch Late Night with Conan O'Brien specifically, and then I'd flip through the others depending on who the guests were and like what was going on and stuff like that. So I'm very familiar with the late night format, and the way that they made this movie was just really cool to me, because it reminded me of sitting down, especially when I was like a late teenager in the late 90s, just sitting and watching Conan O'Brien. It was kind of like that feel, and I really dug that, because Carson, of course, is before my time. I'm old. I'm not that old. I'm not Carson old, And yeah, so that was really cool, because it made me really get into it in a way that I wouldn't otherwise. Like you mentioned WNUF, it just reminds you of a different time. It transports you to that time, and I really dug that about this. This was like super well acted. I was always curious where it was going next, and things happened in this that just shocked me or surprised me. And there are some scenes in this that I won't forget in a long time. And this one I feel I almost need to rewatch again, because I was reading stuff on IMDb afterwards, and there are certain things that I didn't spot the first time around. For example, his wife shows up as a ghost just in the background in multiple scenes in the movie. I spotted a couple of them, but it was way more than I had spotted. So I think that's really cool. It kind of reminds me of what they did with The Haunting of Hill House or The Haunting of Bly Manor, where the ghosts are kind of just chilling in the background and they don't pay attention to them. And I thought that was always a really cool trick, and it's very effective when you do spot her, because you kind of get like a jolt of like, oh shit, you know, there's a ghost in the scene, stuff like that. I dig the aesthetic, the kind of 70s browns and oranges and stuff like that. I really like this, and yeah, it's a fun movie, and one that I'm really looking forward to discussing with you guys, because there's a lot to unpack here, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know where to where you start here. I guess like, did you have like I loved how like we had the segments, right? So you start with like the medium Christo, then you go into the skeptic, who obviously was like, there's like still people to this day that do this, right? They like offer money to debunk things, which I thought was great. And then ending sort of with the June and Lily thing. Did you have like a favorite, I guess, segment like out of the three before we get, obviously shit goes completely off the rails in the very final act?
So let's touch on that real quick though. So the Christoph, right? That's his name?
Christo.
Chris too.
Christo.
Yeah.
Christo.
Wait, no, the
Christo.
guy that is the skeptic.
Carmichael. I
Carmichael.
believe.
There you go.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's offering 200 grand that he carries around a check. It's like really flamboyant. Like, I'll give you 200 grand. And then he ups it. I'll give you 500 grand if you can prove to me that this is a demon or whatever it is. I thought the guy was a prick, and I wanted his head to explode at some point.
Based on a real person, actually, who actually
yeah?
did that back in the 70s.
What a prick.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's
I
fun to be
remember.
around.
I remember reading something like he did that with the Warrens. Like he was like a big
Yeah.
skeptic
Mhm.
about the Warrens, and they actually mentioned the Warrens in this
mentioned,
movie
yeah.
at one point. Yeah, so yeah, I liked. I mean, obviously he's a dick character, but he's supposed to be. And I liked him. I thought he played it great, and they did some really great stuff with him, including I'm sure I know we're gonna get into it, that hypnosis scene, which was just fucking wild.
Yeah, what I liked about the guests in this is they each represent a different type of paranormal con that
Mhm.
has been going on for a long time. You know, the person who can speak to the dead, but are they? Is it just information they had previously or whatever? And then you have the person who hypnotizes, and then you have the one who gets possessed. These are all like very infamous paranormal cons that happen throughout the year. So it's cool to see like each of them represented, and then they make you wonder, wait, was it real? Was it not real? And that was just a cool thing about this movie, is you never really know like who's a con artist and who isn't, or are they all con artists, or none of them are, you know, they're actually, you know, it's really interesting what they do with
Well,
each character.
let's start right there. Christo, right? The medium that picks out the two people in the audience and says, "Oh, your son and slash brother, because you know daughter's there too, committed suicide." And, you know, of course, he has to pick little bits of information before he lands on it, and then the skeptic proves afterwards, like, "Oh, so you filled out a questionnaire about some information?" And he's like, "Yeah, we did, and we also talked to a producer before." Like, "Oh, okay." So that kind of puts into the mind that Christoph is fake, right? But then he fucking, oh yeah, obviously spoilers, everybody, because like, don't, you know. But then he dies on the way to the hospital because of what we saw where he supposedly had another thing trying to communicate to him. It freaks him the fuck out. It has a physical reaction to it, and then he dies eventually. So what do we think? Like, I guess we need to get to the ending before we get to the beginning here, because that's like very important, because either you think it all happened the way it's played out, whether it's a demonic possession of the demon over the girl, whether it's a vengeful ghost of his wife, or it's all fucking bullshit. But you, like, which one do you guys land on? I guess right now, because if you land on bullshit, then Cristal's full of shit. But if you land on demonic or vengeful ghost of his wife, then Cristal is truthful. So what do you guys think?
I mean, where I landed on it, like if we're gonna go into the ending real quick before we really deep dive into it, like I took it as definitely a demonic sort of thing with Jack. Like he did some sort of demonic thing out in the grove that essentially,
Can I pause you right there, Joe? I'm sorry.
yeah,
It's a nitpick, but I think it's a valid one where, like, if you don't, did you guys know about the Grove before this movie?
no,
No.
Okay. So that's a nitpick, because my buddies didn't either. And essentially, like, if I don't know if you read into it afterwards or not,
no,
but it's a fucking wild thing. And like, to sum it up, it's that allegedly actors, you know, politicians, whatever, go out to the woods and they worship a fucking giant owl that we see, and
Mhm.
that they do human sacrifices to the devil. So like, if I feel like it's kind of, you give yourself an injustice if you don't know that already, because having heard, oh shit, he's in the Grove, it automatically triggered like, oh fuck, so he sacrificed someone or did something for the
But,
devil.
like they explain that because I knew that because they say that in the movie specifically.
Yeah, but
talk
it's
about
not
it in the
as crazy
beginning.
as yeah, I know that, but like the complete history of it is fucking wild, and it
Yeah.
sucks just having that little snippet of it. But that's
Mhm.
also go
Right.
ahead with your
No,
thought, Joe.
I liked that. I liked that they kind of kept it sort of cryptic, like, you know what I mean? Like, and they didn't go so deep into it where it's like, but yeah, I mean, I agree. I mean, you've heard this stuff all the time, like the Illuminati, right? Like like all these celebrities are in the Illuminati essentially, which I think, I don't know if that's like part of the Grove too or whatever, but I mean, you hear this like crazy shit all the time, like, they do all this weird shit to gain fame, and the Illuminati gives them fame and stuff like that. So I think it played well into this as well. But as far as like I see it, like I think like it's weird, man. I think this movie does a great job of playing like both sides of the card. Like you could say, oh, he was completely full of shit. Oh, or maybe, and you could say this for all of them. And with Christu, like I think he was definitely mostly full of shit, but then like obviously that thing comes into his head at the end, and is that the devil or the demonic forces, playing into him, or is he does he have like slight gift, but most of it is bullshit? So yeah, I don't know. I kind of fall in the middle. Like I feel like he's mainly a con artist, but I feel like he has something, like some semblance of maybe like a little. I don't know. Like what do you guys think? I don't know. I'm very on the fence about it.
Yeah, I'm kind of like, so I also think it ended up being real because of the Grove. That's why they mentioned it basically, right? That he's part of the cult and everything. And the fact that we see his wife kind of pop in at different places would be weird if it was all faked, right? But it could also be a ratings ploy if it's just like kind of because she's kind of translucent and kind of like glowy and stuff like that. So maybe he would, because it is sweeps week, right? It's like very important for him to beat Carson that day. So maybe he would stoop to the level of kind of putting his wife in there. And you're right, that's what makes this movie so interesting is you don't know what's real. As far as Chris 2 specifically goes, I think you're on the right track. I think he was a bullshit artist that at the end he's actually like getting something, and he basically dies right after. It's almost like the demonic creature or whatever it is taking those people's powers and showing this is what it would be like if you actually had these powers, and he's having headaches, and he has one specific name that he can't get out of his head, which ends up being the wife's name, or the nickname for the wife, I should say. And then eventually he dies for it. So yeah, I think it was real.
I agree with that. Here's my question. What is the purpose of the wife being here? Are we led to believe that that is the wife's spirit? If so, is she angry? Or are we led to believe that like demons and their trickery is using the wife's spirit as like a fuck you to Jack because he essentially sacrifices her, if that's what you believe, because he
Right.
got famous somehow, and they make it a point saying like she was never a smoker, she got lung cancer, even though you can still get it. But that was what they said, you know what I mean? So
Mhm.
was she vengeful, or was she just not even there the whole time and that was just the demon or whatever fucking around?
It's a great question. Obviously he paid the ultimate sacrifice for fame, and basically he essentially gave up his wife, like the love of his life, in
Did he
order
though?
to gain this fame. Yeah,
Did he
I
specifically? Do you specifically think
no,
he sacrificed his wife, or he just said, "I'll give up
no.
whatever
He
for fame"?
he he'd give up anything for fame, essentially, and I don't think he thought it was gonna go that far, but, that's what happened. Essentially, the devil took his wife in order to get that fame. I don't think it was ever his intention, though. It doesn't seem like that to me anyway. It seemed like he genuinely loved her and whatnot, but I think he knew the risks when he did it. So, yeah, as far as the ghost of his wife, that's a tough one. I think she is there. I think there is some semblance of like a vengeful ghost, but yeah, I don't know. That's another tough one. Like it could be the devil playing tricks, sort of toying with Jack as well. I think the ending is definitely the devil toying with Jack, which we'll get into. But as far as seeing her throughout, I think in the beginning it's her. Maybe even warning Jack. that maybe you should stop. But that's another one. Like this is why it's such a good discussion. I think there's no wrong answer here. I think you can look at it multiple ways and not be wrong.
Yeah, I think this whole movie is a metaphor for making a deal with the devil. And I think that's what essentially he's doing. He's kind of using the devil to get his ratings, because that's what this whole episode is about, is him communicating with the devil and everything like that. And I think he's using the wife almost like a guilt trip to really get to him and show that, yeah, you'll be famous, but you won't be there to enjoy it because I'm going to kind of guilt you to death. Right. And that's what I perceive this whole thing was about, is basically he was so hungry for fame and to beat Johnny Carson that he essentially sold his soul to the devil. And maybe the wife did get killed, through some kind of mysterious disease, because like you said, she didn't smoke and had lung cancer. But again, it is the 70s. She could have been exposed to smoke, and it could have gone either way too.
Well, what do you think though about specifically, we see the ghost her voice is mimicked through the little girl at one point, but we also see her like physically in the room.
I think that's a
Vengeful
demon.
or
I think that's a
mocking?
demon. I think it's mocking. I think it's similar to The Exorcist, when Father Karras's mother is being heard through the tape, and he hears her voice, Dimmy, and he sees visions of her and shit
Yeah.
like that. I think
Okay.
it's kind of the same thing. He's toying with the character.
Okay, but I never thought of what Joe said, where it could have been Madeline there to warn him to stop with the demonic shit. But I don't know, man. I think it can still go either way. Like I read a theory, or we were talking about a theory where there was never a demonic presence. It was always Madeline, and she's fucking pissed because you sacrificed yourself to the devil, and she's the one pulling all the strings, which is plausible because why else would she be there? But if she's there solely because the demon brought her in there just to fuck around like they always do, then that makes sense too. So I think I think it still comes down to two things: Madeline's doing it all, demonic guy's doing it all, or the whole thing's full of shit and Jack snapped and fucking killed a little girl in air for no reason, which we have to get to eventually as well.
Yeah. Well, this leads to like the next thing too with June and, the little girl and Lily. He said, what did he say? The book kind of showed up did he say it like showed up in his office, or like it
Yeah,
showed up
something
on
like
his
that.
desk one day or something like that?
No.
So do we think that is also the work of the devil? Like he wanted Jack to meet June
I don't trust June.
and Lily.
I don't trust June at all. If she's so sympathetic to Lily, like I have to protect her and I love her, because even the other dude calls her out, like, well, yeah, you just want her for money because you can write a book about her. He's like, no, I gave her love and shelter. Then why are you bringing her on a talk show? Because you want fame too. Like if you really love this little girl that has a mental illness and or a demonic possession, you're not bringing her on a fucking talk show.
Unless
Well,
you're Reagan's mom. who
well,
did the
it's
same
either-
thing.
Well, obviously
Fucking Reagan's
Jack took advantage of her in a lot of ways, I would say. Like they were in a relationship, clearly, like it's implied throughout the entire movie, and it seemed like sort of he convinced her to come on. She did seem pretty reluctant regarding it, obviously, and stuff, and she's even reluctant, but she still continues to do it anyway. But I don't know. I think she did have the best intentions for the girl, it seemed to me. I think she believes in her work. So I personally don't think she like had bad intentions or is like a bad person.
I mean, she did summon the demon on air. I think she's
No,
a terrible person.
Yes, I mean, yeah, that's fair. It's fair. But I think
Yeah.
she's also trying to bring awareness to her field, right? Like the whatever it is, parapsychology or
Something,
whatever.
yeah.
Yeah, so but yeah, I mean, you shouldn't be fucking summoning a demon on the air of a 13-year-old girl or whatever. That's
How do we like Lily's performance? I thought she was fucking solid, and she could have
She was
killed
great.
the movie. Yeah.
I thought she was great, and there's also we haven't even really mentioned it as like creepy and moments and stuff. There's also some great comedy in here too, like when she's just like staring at the camera and you hear one of the cameramen in the background. He's like, "Oh, that's a creepy kid, man," or whatever. Like, there's some great, and even like
I missed that. Dang it.
yeah, oh yeah, it's great. There's some great stuff. Like listen to it with subtitles. There's like a lot of like chattering in the background. that you miss or you can pick up on a second watch. But she was great. I thought she did a really good job. She plays like creepy kid good. And yeah, there's some really funny moments just with her, intentional or unintentional, but it's good.
Yeah, there's
So-
also some really surreal stuff. We didn't even talk about the hypnotism, which was like
I was just
before
bringing that up.
Right.
Yeah, take
she
it.
came out. So basically, the skeptic is also a hypnotist, and he takes the sidekick, which I forget his name. He's like
He's
the guy who
great,
does
by the
the
way.
sound.
cool.
I,
Yeah,
I
I like
love
him a
I
lot.
love him. They shit on him like the whole
Yeah.
movie, but it's great.
So they bring him, and basically they do a hypnotism, which I'm curious if you guys believe, just generally, like outside of the movie, in hypnotists. We used to have one come to our college, and he would hypnotize people. Now I don't personally, but again, it's weird. Like I witnessed it, and people were really weird about it. But anyway,
Has anyone Steve? You haven't been, but has Joe been hypnotized? Because I haven't.
I was attempted to be hypnotized on, and it didn't work at all
Hmm.
for me.
Interesting.
So I personally, I don't believe in it. But I've heard people like get hypnotized and then they don't smoke. You know what I mean? I mean, a la Get Out.
Okay.
You know, but
Yeah.
but no, in real life, I've heard of people like saying, you know, I smoked my whole life, got hypnotized, and I don't touch it anymore. So maybe it works for some people. I think it works on certain
Placebo
people,
effect.
right? That's potential. Yeah, that's also very possible. It seems to work for some people, but like you said, it could just be another sort of trick, that we see in many parts of this movie.
Yeah, so basically he hypnotizes this person, but also the audience at the same time, because they keep showing his tool that he uses, like a thing that spins around, and they see him basically have worms come out of him and all this stuff, which is weird because the people in the audience see it, he sees it, the people at home apparently see it, but when they replay it on tape, nothing was actually there. He had hypnotized everyone in the screen. So I don't know. I thought that was a little loose. That was probably my least favorite
Yeah.
of the tricks that they pulled, just because it would have been one thing if it was just like the guy, but to have everyone see the same thing was odd.
Yeah, and he was doing that because right before that scene was the demonic thing, and Lily was like freaking out and levitating, and then he's like, "Well, let me show you, let me prove my point. She's a hypnotist, and I can do the same exact thing," which he does. And they're like, "All right, play the VHS tapes," and to us, we see worms like literally crawling out of this guy's stomach they ripped open. But on the VHS tapes, it's just him like hypnotist would, like, "Oh my God, there's worms everywhere. What are these doing?" So he's like, "See, she can do it too." And then of course June's like, "Nah, I didn't hypnotize anybody." So I don't know. Yeah, it was kind of iffy.
It was a trick, right? But for me, it like worked because like if you're supposed to be watching it like live, like everyone else, like you're supposed to be like feeling like you were hypnotized too with the audience on that night. And then obviously they play the tape back and you see what they actually saw and stuff. So I thought that was cool. And it was a cool way for some cool effects when the fucking worm bursts out of his head and the stomach. It was cool. I want to go back to the exorcism though real quick because that's sort of the first time it's implied that the devil has met with Jack before, because Lily sort of looks like at him, and she's like, "We've met before in the tall trees," which goes back to sort of the Grove and stuff like that. So I thought that was sort of a cool way. And then even June is like, "What does she mean by the tall trees?" And Jack's playing very coy, completely denying anything to do, with that. And it's like, why would Jack in that moment deny it? Does he not want anyone to know about sort of the sacrifices he made? Or is he not a believer himself in that moment? What do you guys think?
Yeah, probably wants to keep it hush hush if he did a pact with the devil. Like,
Right.
I don't think he wants that getting out.
I agree. That is basically like,
Yeah.
the whole Grove thing, I think, is like a dirty secret, right? It's
Right.
see the secret society that he's part of, so he doesn't want to expose it.
So the only issue I had is that he doesn't even seem like disturbed by it. Like when she says it, he's like, "I don't know what you're talking about," type thing. But like you would think, like if someone said that to you and it's like your dirty little secret, like that would sort of fuck with you. And he still is like all about like we get to do the rating stuff, but maybe he's like
He's
that
an
far
actor.
gone at that point.
Yeah, he's also an actor, and he has to keep a stage face. So I think he can definitely
Yeah,
pull it off.
that's
Because
a good point.
there are instances too where it's just a really good subtle performance by him, where he like you can see it in his face, like his cheeks tighten and his eyes go a little bit
Mhm.
wider, especially like when Lily mimics his dead wife's voice.
Mhm.
He's like, what the fuck? But yeah, that's it.
All right. All right. Yeah. So I don't know. Did we get to the ending now?
Well, do you guys both think that it's what happens is at face value is that Lily was possessed and he summoned the demon and all hell broke loose because he fucking sacrificed his wife essentially to that same demon and now the demon wants more?
Yeah. Well, let's get into it. Let's get into the ending. Obviously at the very ending, fucking Lily ends up losing her fucking shit. We get like this huge like electrical
Which I did not like. I thought
charge.
that was so lame
The
looking.
I agree. The electrical charge, I think they could have did something better there. Although the head split is fucking cool. Like obviously, like when her head splits and all of sort of this electrical current starts coming out and stuff like that. And then yeah, Lily essentially. Do we know? Well, this is where it gets really
Mhm.
deep. What we see on the camera is Lily killing all of the guests on the show. She kills June by levitating her and slitting her throat, which was a really cool scene. But the best kill for me was the co-host guy who gets his fucking exorcist, like his head completely spun around
Yeah.
and broken. Kristoff gets fucking melted, essentially. But in a great comedy
Carmichael.
scene where Carmichael, yeah, a great comedy scene where he pulls out the check and tries to give it to her,
Yeah.
which made me laugh so hard in that moment. But it was so good, and yeah, and then we are taking.
Then he goes on a
into-
trip though, right?
Yeah, I was gonna say. Then we're taking into this sort of trippy thing with Jack, where he's I don't know. There's some weird shit we see. He's like stuck in the show at some points, and then we see moments from the Grove and the satanic sacrifice he did, and then his wife on her deathbed, asking her to kill because of the pain she's in. He takes the dagger, which is played very well, which we never mentioned, but he at one point he's like cuts Lily's things off with the dagger and he puts it right on the table next to him. But what we end up seeing is that everyone in the audience, everyone now on stage is dead, and he is stabbing Lily with the dagger at the end, and he thought he was killing his wife, and essentially we end from there, which leaves us to what the fuck happened. So let's hear it. What do you guys? What's your theories here?
So do you think Jack killed his wife to ease her suffering?
No,
No?
no. I think she died of
Just
cancer,
cancer.
and this is like the devil toying with him to. Man, I have a couple theories here, right? So like I'm on the fence. So I think everything we see up until Lily's head splitting on the show was real. Like I think all of that was real. Once you get to that moment with like after the hypnosis and Lily's head split, the question becomes, did that really happen? Did the demon inhabit Lily and she went apeshit on everyone? Or did Jack, was that all in Jack's head and he was killing everyone on that stage as sort of the devil's last trick, playing these mind games with Jack, and Jack was seeing all this and he was the one that was killing everyone and it wasn't Lily. I could go either way, honestly, but at the end of the like in my heart of hearts, I think it was all in Jack's head and he killed everyone on that stage. However, watching it a second time, I did see the head completely turned around and split broken. I don't know if a human could actually do that. So that makes me question, well, maybe he only killed Lily at the end. So like those are sort of my two main theories I go with. And yeah, I don't know. It could go either way.
Yeah, I feel like I don't think he killed everyone for the reason you just said. The two of the deaths are too like if they had all been stabbed in some form, then I would have thought maybe he's the one who did all the killings. But one's burned, like one, like you said, the head is completely like turned around. I don't think he could have done that, without being stopped or whatever. And had he done it, why would basically everyone be gone? Except the cameraman for whatever reason. That's a whole other story.
Well, would you run if you just saw someone start killing people on stage?
Yeah, but someone would have stopped him. Like someone
Yeah.
would have tried to stop him, especially
Yeah,
with the
like
little girl
fucking
there.
the stagehand, who was a big ass motherfucker, he would have stepped in.
Yeah.
Yeah, like if I think someone would have stepped in. So I think he did kill Lily, but I think everyone else was the demon.
So I agree too. I think it was all demonic work, but what is the point? What is the demon's end game for having Lily killed by Jack? Is that a final fuck you to Jack? Like you're going to jail now? Because or the final corruption of a an innocent person, this 13, 14-year-old girl. What do you guys think? 'Cause that's where I'm kind of that's my biggest question mark is why is Lily killed? What was the end game?
So to me, it's you can never make a good deal with the devil, right? So like Jack got what he wanted, right? He's gonna be number one, but his life and his career is now over. So he got what he wanted, but in the worst way possible.
But okay, to that point, which I'm like I agree with you, but like taking a step back, everything is on camera, everything's recorded. If I was a cop or whatever, and I was looking at this, all right, let's see what happened, motherfucker. This girl levitated and her fucking throat slit. This guy lit on fire, and look at my character. Look at me, Jack. I'm standing there, and this demonic being is doing it. And I stabbed her. That's self defense. Like his life isn't over. You know what I mean?
He's gonna go to jail. He still killed Lily.
I know, but Lily was
regardless.
the perpetrator of all this. If she's fucking freaking out, if everything we see is true, and she's
Right.
fucking bleeding out electricity, she's fucking snapping dude's neck, like it's self defense, right? So he's gonna be a hero. Plus, he's number one. So like, what is? I don't understand the end game, or maybe just looking too far into it.
Would Jack? I mean, honestly, he's probably gonna be in a mental institution after this. Like, he's
Sure.
gonna be emotionally really fucked up. But yeah, I mean, then it's like what we really never saw what actually happened on that camera, like when Jack stabbed her. So we don't know what was happening in that moment. You know what I mean? So yeah, I mean it.
Well,
It's
what
inter-
was to go back a tiny bit? What was the? Because I remember they wanted them to replay the exorcism, right? Why didn't they? Was that just interrupted?
They played it.
Did they play it? And it was
They went.
it
They
was
went.
proven that she was levitating and stuff.
It was proven it was all
Okay,
like what
must
they
have
saw
forgot
on the
about
tape
that.
was real. Yeah. Mhm.
So that kind of solidifies that everything that happened at the end.
I mean, the
Right.
skeptic still thinks it was like trickery, like wires or something like. So,
Right. I get it just depends on if you think like everything we were watching in live time was like actually happening. You know what I mean? Or if like this was all in Jack's head or it's
I just thinking out loud, man. It's like if Jack killed Lily, right? Who
Mhm.
was herself killing everybody on stage. So in a way, does Jack win? Does he beat the demonic force? Because he fucking killed her and she's done. Demonic force is driven away now.
I mean, no, because like what did he gain, right? Like everybody's dead. Like are people like his sponsor? You think our sponsor is gonna stay on after that? Like is his show like his show's not gonna like stay on
Maybe in
the air
2024, but not
after something like that?
1977.
They are gonna find he perpetrated all of this, right? Like he brought all these people on. So they're going to find him somewhat responsible no matter what, that he could have stopped at any time and he kept pushing that envelope. So I feel like they will try to blame him some way somehow even if he kind of skirts away, you know what I mean? I just feel like his career is going to be over no matter what. Especially back then in the 70s. I mean, there was no internet. There was no, I mean, like
Mhm.
he could go have his own podcast nowadays or something
Right,
like
yeah,
that.
yeah.
He'd be a
But
hero right now.
right. But yeah, no, I mean, it's a good point. Like I could see your point, Todd, that like some people would consider him a hero, right? Like if what we saw, you take it with face value and, Lily was killing all those people and Jack killing her. But that's the other thing. Like when we see him killing Lily at the end, he's just killing a little girl. He's not killing like a demon in that moment. So like that's why I kind of go the other way of like, okay, like maybe that was all in Jack's head and Jack was the one doing all the killing.
What if he was the demon and
Yeah, he
like,
could have
it
been
took him over?
possessed too.
Yeah.
he's the one who was actually possessed the whole time. That's why his wife is kind of always there, and he the one who did all the killings, finishing off with Lily. So on camera, it looked like her with in his head, it looked like her with the split head open, but
Mhm.
actually it was him that was
Mhm.
the demon the whole time.
And we're to believe
I don't know.
Jack was like the one he was part of like the people doing the rituals on Lily too, right? Because like
Oh,
at one
really?
point, I think so. Because at one point we see, thought
Well,
we
they all
see,
died though.
I thought we see that same guy with Jack at one point, like
Which guy are you
uh,
talking about? The like leader of the
that
cult?
like leader of the cult. Yeah.
I did not catch that.
At one point, I thought we see him with Jack. It is at the end of the movie when he is going through all of those sort of loopy stuff. So it's like, are we to believe that that guy was part of the Grove too? And like Jack was, they were maybe bringing Lily to the Grove, and they were doing these like
I
weird
don't know.
rituals on her. Because like obviously we don't know what the fuck was really happening at the Grove. So and if you remember, the demon at one point did say we've met before in the tall trees. So are we to believe that the demon was in Lily at the time? You know, that's another thing. Like
I
you could kind of theorize too. But I don't know, like Jack never really says he met her before and wouldn't, but Lily was very like weird around him and stuff like that too. So,
yeah, she did say, "Oh, June thinks you're handsome,"
right.
and I knew we were coming to visit you. I took it that he just meant the entity itself at the
Hmm.
Grove, not
That's
maybe not necessarily
right.
Lily.
Yeah, no,
Um,
I'm just sort of throwing out theories here of
my
potential
my
other
question,
stuff.
I have another question, and I would love to like pull this up now on video, but so you know how he's going through his freak out at the end, and then he stabs her, and then that cuts to reality.
Hmm.
What was everyone? What were the bodies? Were the bodies still there? Like, was his body
Yeah.
smoldering?
All the
Yeah.
bodies. I didn't notice
Okay.
him, but I noticed the host for the other dude, the co-host for sure,
Nick.
like with his head
Well,
completely
I mean, a man
like,
can do
spun
that,
around
but
broken.
he obviously
You
can't
could.
make a dude
I
like
think we saw
smoke.
a video of him being like completely like charred black, like just.
Okay, okay.
He
So
could have
that
set him
kind
on
of
fire though.
But I watched a lot
yeah,
of movies that people got set on fire recently, so
Yeah.
I don't,
Yeah.
it could have
He
been
coulda had
Fallout. It could
so
have been
hot
one of the
right
other
now.
ones. Yeah.
he could have threw some lighter
Lighter
fluid on
fluid.
him or something. Yeah.
Man, I'm gonna watch this one again.
I know that's what makes it so
Yeah.
interesting, right? Is that
Mhm.
it's one of those that you need to rewatch, and I just probably still do. I mean, Joe watched it twice. You still don't have the answers, and that's what makes
No.
this movie kind of brilliant. Is that it's so ambiguous, and it could go in so many different
It's
directions.
like American Psycho. It can be in his head
Yeah.
or it's not.
Exactly.
I can see the argument though with him being the one possessed after all.
Hmm.
But I don't know. I think at the end of the day, I think it was everything we saw happened, and Jack killed the girl that was possessed, that was killing people
Hmm.
as a final fuck you. But I don't know. It can still go other ways.
I'm 50-50. I think those are the two main, like those two theories we are sort of kind of being on. I think those. I think it could go either way. Honestly.
How do you feel about his wife being the perpetrator of everything? She's fucking mad, and she's coming back to fuck him over.
I don't love that one as much. That's where I would go. That's not one I even thought about, honestly. Just because of all the stuff with the Grove, they
Mhm.
really focus on that a lot. So, I mean, it's plausible though. Sure, like a vengeful wife, but then it doesn't like lead to all the like demonic shit. Like, you think like she would have killed everyone in the audience too? Like, wouldn't she just be going after Jack?
Did she kill everyone in the audience?
I mean, not the audience, but I mean like on
Oh,
the
on the
stage.
stage?
Yeah.
I don't know. Oh, you know what was funny too? I thought the skeleton person in the
Yeah.
audience was going to be a bigger part. It was kind of creepy.
Yeah, they
It was-
specifically show not only in the audience but also in the dream at the end or that sequence. So yeah, there must be something, right? Like, or was that just
Interesting.
a red herring?
Something we
that-
missed. I don't know.
Maybe he's a
They're
member
just-
of the Grove.
Yeah, maybe, right?
Incognito. Yeah.
Was there anything else on like IMDb, Steve, that you picked like interesting
no,
besides like the Ghost
it's-
Lily?
It's just like how they're all based off real people. You know, this
Mhm.
like kind of plays on the 70s and the ghosts appearing, I think 6 or 7 times in the movie that I only spotted like 3 of them maybe.
Mhm.
Yeah, no,
Shit,
it's,
I only spotted one when she's standing behind her. Behind
Right.
him.
yeah, that was probably the most obvious, like during
Yeah.
the replay of the video. But yeah, apparently, you can.
They
spot
kept
her
splitting the
consistently.
film too, which I'm
Mhm.
like, oh, there has to be something hidden in that. They
Right.
did it like 4 or 5 times.
I'm sure there is.
Yeah.
Oh,
Man, I
yeah.
hope this gets a physical release because I really want to. I'm gonna buy it on tape because there's this guy that does
Mhm.
tapes and I know he'll do it.
Mhm.
And then 2, I really want this as physical, not just streaming.
Mhm.
Yeah. This is also, I mean, this is like a completely random thing, but there was like a whole thing about this movie regarding AI too. I feel like it's one of the first ones that really like went about. So, and I think I don't know.
What they
I
do?
think it's so minimal
It
that I think
is.
people I think it's a overreaction in my opinion. And like trust me, I am all for like artists getting their money and stuff like that for these movies and stuff like that. But it's basically just the like we'll be right back like stuff, like those like 10-second clips in between. They used AI for it. And a lot of people came out like saying calling for boycotts on the movie and stuff like that, which I thought was like such an overreaction and so ridiculous. First of all, the movie is super low budget, right? And they obviously did it like in post production. And man, I don't know. Like I just feel like there's different hills to die on
Mhm.
regarding AI. And I just felt like to do it for on this specific movie. And you know, you have like there if you go on Letterboxd, there's people who give this movie like half-star reviews and one-star reviews.
Because of
You know,
that.
because of the AI. Yeah,
Fuck,
that's
get off your fucking pedestal, dude. Listen, like someone still had to coach the AI to make that art. It's not just like a
someone
magical thing that fucking comes out of your asshole. You still got to go online and be like, all right, like I want a pumpkin, I want a fucking candle. You know what I mean? Whatever. Shut up.
yeah.
What's the
It's not
movie?
honestly it's not something I won't even want to go deep into, but I just saw like people talking about it. So
That's pathetic.
yeah.
Just watch the film.
Yeah. All right. That about it then, gentlemen?
Yep.
Sure.
Alright. All right. Yeah, man. This is one of my favorites of the year, no doubt about it. On a second watch, I loved it, and talking about it today made me love it even more. Honestly, I think it's great. I'm actually upping it. I'm upping it to a 4.5 out of 5. I was at a 4 out of 5, but after sort of a rewatch and the discussion today, I think it deserves it. I think more people should watch it. I think it's so unique and interesting, like especially like for people who haven't seen stuff like WNUL. Like we obviously like go deep into everything, but if you've never seen stuff like that, I think this is super original for you, and it's still like an original take on it. So yeah, love it. 4.5 out of 5.
Yeah, man, not to copy you, but I changed my grade too to a 4.5 out of 5. I came out of watching it as a 4. Great discussion with the homies, great discussions with you guys, the homies, part 2. Man, I'm still thinking about it. And when a movie makes you think in good ways like that, where it has different avenues that you can go and everyone can be either wrong or everyone can be right in their own capacity, that's fucking great filmmaking, dude. David, last name hard to pronounce. I thought he did a phenomenal job.
Definitely.
And yeah, number 1 of the year so far, even though I've only seen 4. So we'll see.
Yeah, I'm gonna just copy you guys' homework here because I also went in with a 4, but after discussing it, like I want to go and watch it again, like right
Let's
away, you
go.
know. So 4.5 out of 5 is what I'm gonna give on Letterbox. Yeah, it's a fantastic movie all around, and there's so many nuances, and it's a really just interesting style and take and good performances. You know, we have to like everyone was really good. They played their roles perfectly, and yeah, I fucking dug this one. What an absolute gem of a movie.
Dude, hell yeah, this is a rarity for a 2024
I
4.5
know.
across
Yeah.
the board.
Yeah,
Jeez.
definitely. I don't think we've ever. I can't think of a last movie we all gave like brand new release that we gave 4.5
Yeah.
out of 5. So
Wow.
hopefully we didn't overhype it for you guys, but we obviously all loved it.
Watch
Yeah,
it in a dark room though. Like
I
you mentioned,
agree.
Joe,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
on a TV.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was great in the theater, but honestly, I enjoyed it even more watching it at home. So yeah, and hopefully this dude is starting to hit cons now, so I would love to meet this dude and Jack. It'd be
Oh
cool.
yeah, I would totally.
Yeah. I just saw he just did a con recently and he dressed up like a Dracula, like it looked like he was like dressing up for Halloween night
That's
sort of
cool.
thing. He's like really getting into sort of the Night Owls
Yeah.
character,
So,
which is
so
cool.
he's in a ton of movies, and
He
he's one
is,
of those actors that he's like always good, but he's never got quite that break. So
Yeah.
I feel good that he's finally like leading something and shows that he can kind of hold the weight of the movie. I feel the same way about Walton Goggins in Fallout. Like for years he's been performing like fucking amazing, but just never had that breakout role. And now he's getting it too. It's nice to see like some of these kind of worker actors get their due, because we've seen a lot in horror, like people that just they're just like Dick Miller, for example, always kind of the cool sidekick but never the lead.
Right.
And this proves that sometimes they can take the reins and do something awesome.
100%. And I'm excited to see what these directors do next. I don't know really any of their other
Haven't
work.
done much. Yeah.
So
One of their
yeah.
films on Tubi, 100 Acre something. I'm gonna try it.
Yeah. So yeah, very cool. And yeah, I think that's about it then. Yeah, this dude, Dark Knight, was like the only thing I recognized him from before this, or the most recognizable thing for me. And he wasn't even that big of a role in that. But is there anything else? You
Oh,
guys?
he was in Ant-Man. He was
Ant-Man?
in
Okay. I haven't seen
and
Ant-Man.
Todd just watched this, Angry Video Game Nerd, the movie. He was in that as
So
well.
random. I had to look up. I'm like, is that guy?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
He did a lot of stuff. He's a good
Nice.
actor.
All right, cool. All right, that's going to be it then for this week's episode. We hope you enjoyed. I loved this discussion of Late Night with the Devil. Next week, what do we get, Steve?
Well, in honor of Salem Horror Fest, which is happening this weekend and next weekend, seeing as how we're covering movies from that festival, we decide to go to Salem for our next review, and we will review Rob Zombie's The Lords of Salem, which should be a fun discussion, I think.
In the meantime, you can keep up with the podcast, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Threads. Just search the Horror Squad Podcast. You, of course, can email us anytime, the Horror Squad Podcast at gmail.com. And the absolute best way to keep up with the podcast is the Discord, completely free to join. It's linked over on our Instagram, or just send us a DM. We will get you a link to join that Discord to find out about all of our upcoming events and everything else. Talk horror with all your fellow horror fans. Events, don't forget June 7th through the 9th, Monroeville, Pennsylvania, Living Dead Weekend. It's going to be an awesome time. Our Hocus Pocus event, October 11th through the 13th in Salem, Massachusetts. And Salem Horror Fest. Don't forget, the next 2 weekends coming up here. If you're anywhere in the Salem, Massachusetts area, check out Salem Horror Fest. And leave us a 5-star review on your favorite podcast app if you haven't already. And if you'd like to support the pod another way, you can buy merch, tpublic.com. Just search the Horror Squad Podcast. That's also linked on our Instagram. And you can buy some merch. We get t-shirts, hoodies, hats, everything over there. So coffee mugs, pillows, dog toys. Who the fuck knows? I don't know. I don't even know what they have on there these days. But if you want it, go and buy it. Movie Club, Steve? Is Movie Club coming up soon?
Yeah, actually, Movie Club is the day this episode releases. We're going to watch a movie called Deep Dark, based off Todd's recommendation, something that looks kind of crazy, kind of fun. So all you need to do is join our Discord, and I will send the link on Friday night. It's at 9 p.m. Eastern, and it's a Zoom link, and you just come and you watch the movies with us. We comment about it, and then we talk a little bit about the film afterwards. It's always a good time, and I look forward to seeing everyone again at the Movie Club. And if you can't make it this month, it's pretty much every month. I think I've only missed 1 month the whole time we've done it. So yeah, it's it'll be a fun time. So come check it out.
Awesome. All right, that's it. We'll see you guys next week. Bye.
Bye.